Hi everybody and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Robb Evans and I'm your weight loss coach, health strategist and internationally published author, helping take your life, your business, your mindset, your health and fitness from where you are to becoming unstoppable. And I've got a fantastic guest with me today, all the way from Sydney. It's Athin Cassiotis, and he is, as his brand there in the background says, he runs the Business Growth Show, and he helps people build six figures online. And today I've asked Athin to join us because we're going to talk about fear and limiting beliefs. So first of all, welcome Athin to the show.
Thanks a lot, Rob. And yeah, it's great to be here. And I'm sure it's going to be an awesome show with what we provide everybody today.
Now, because you're based up in Sydney, I did happen to see the weather overnight that happened up in Sydney. You get some extreme storms up there. I'm down in Melbourne, for those listening overseas. Were you impacted by, the lightning storm looked amazing?
It was pretty full on last night. My internet got affected for a little bit, was jumping in and out even. And I wasn't outside, luckily enough, but it was definitely putting on a show. But I was powering through to what I want to do. It's interesting with Sydney. You sort of get good weather and all of a sudden a big storm will come and then we'll go back to normal again after.
I know. I was recording on my other podcast yesterday, Robb Evans 365, that Australia's going through this massive heat wave. And yet today it's 15 degrees here in Melbourne. But somewhere, I think it's in South Queensland, they're up to the mid 40s.
Crazy.
It's just crazy. But we could talk weather all day. Hey, I wanted, can you tell us a little bit about your background and just to give our listeners a bit more of an idea as to what you do, but how you help businesses grow online?
Yeah. I guess, I originally grew up in Adelaide in South Australia, and then through, my previous company and working from a young age in an environmental company, working my way up there, moved to Sydney, and, did a lot of cool things in various departments in business development, sales, marketing, a lot of other departments. And then basically started an MBA while I was there. I got in on experience, and then from that, I left almost 4 years ago now, started my first business, which was waste management consulting, where I provide independent advice to large, commercial businesses in Australia, big brands like Westfield, Coles, Kmart, Target, all the big guys that a lot of us know here in Australia and overseas. And yeah, a variety of things with their waste and recycling. And then from there, with the success I've had of building that to multiple six figures, now, also doing my second business, which is a business coaching, mentoring business for the last year or so, and really helping people to start their businesses or grow their businesses, to six figures and beyond online. And I guess, there's a variety of things that I've learned through my MBA, through my own coaches, through my experience in my first business, and all of that sort of coupled together with all of the different components of business, and how they are really important. And, as we're talking about today, the mindset part of it is, one of the most important parts in that. And that's where, fear and limiting beliefs can inhibit us as well.
So tell me, in the work that you're doing in coaching, tell me, what do you think is, I suppose, the greatest fear, the greatest limiting belief that holds people back when, let's talk specifically around business to start with.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I guess everyone's a little bit different, and there's probably a couple. I think deep down, depending on how people have sort of grown up, but there's always a fear of success or a fear of failure with people. But I think in terms of I guess fears, it's it also comes down to limiting beliefs as well. Now, it's sort of a bit of both here. I think we only have two fears, right? That are built in from us from when we're actually humans. So that's a fear of falling and a fear of loud noises, right? So every other fear that we have is constructed, manifested, right? Through our experiences, through life and all these other things. So when you understand that, it's okay. What is it, these things that hold us back? And a lot of it is judgment, I find, right? With people is like the fear of being judged, or the fear that they're not good enough in that way with people. And that can be, that's in business and a lot of things in life, that they're not good enough, unfortunately. That's where coaches come into it, and you got to have that awareness and going, how can we, to change that fear so that, we get empowered from it as well.
Tell me, how do you see those fears and limiting beliefs? They're really assimilated, aren't they? That's why I said fear and limiting beliefs for us to talk about this. How do they, within people, how do they impact them? What do they do? How do they immobilize people? What do they prevent them from achieving?
Yeah, they basically prevent us from doing everything in life. Like, a lot of these limiting beliefs, are brought into us from our parents and that, from when we're growing up, from when we're between the ages of 0 and 6 or 7 years old. That's when we create most of our beliefs. So our parents, or the people that are close to us, without them knowing, they try and do the best they can, but we get these beliefs, and we don't necessarily know that they're there when we get older, right? But then we will be stunted in certain things of life, in work, in business, and other areas where we're probably unsure of what that is. And we have to sort of get that awareness and either get somebody to ask us, like a coach or a mentor, to be able to draw those out of us, or go through a certain process ourselves once we know, to really understand what are those things. And then it's really about changing those, and I call them like flipping the limiting beliefs, right, into empowering beliefs, because it's, it can inhibit you everything. Like, for example, a lot of people have money issue beliefs, right? And, one that my dad said was, hundreds of times I heard it growing up, was money's the root of all evil, right? Yeah. So by me being imprinted in me, when I started my first business, I wasn't earning that much money. Then when I went through a process with a coach and sort of flipped that and changed that belief, bang, the money started flowing through. So it's amazing that one belief like that can really, and that's just one example with money. There's a lot of other different things there that can really inhibit you from, getting the success, the fulfillment, and everything that you want to achieve in your life.
It's really interesting, isn't it, that if you think, say, a movie or a sitcom or something like that, where somebody is in the psychologist's office or whatever, they're lying on the couch and they're writing notes and everything, and they say, tell me about your childhood. But so much of what we carry through life has happened in those, first 8 years or so. And I myself had money belief issues as well. What you believe you can earn, what you believe you should earn. And where did that come from? Well, it came from my parents, because I never saw my parents as having money. It wasn't like they were broke or anything, but they never really had money. And there would be arguments around money, but they happened in private. And you didn't find out till years later that, oh, wow, really, that happened? Why did that happen? How did you have so little money? And that kind of stuff. And I remember I was earning I just started a chartered accounting job with Coopers & Lybrand back in 1991. I was on a graduate salary of $25,000, which was really quite good at that time. And I remember Mum asked me a question about my dad's tax. And so I had to look at his numbers. And up to that point, money wasn't ever really talked about at home. So that's the first problem. And then I saw it and I thought, wow, I can't believe he earns that little. Actually, it might have been a couple of years later and I was earning the same. I was on 42 grand and like Dad was on 42 grand. I'm like, man, I felt embarrassed almost that he was retiring and that's all he was earning. And I thought, wow, gee, and I'm already, I'm 22 or whatever, and I'm already out earning him. But even with that, for many years, I carried that in my business. Like I was setting monthly targets for myself. Okay, I've got to get to this. I've got to get to this. And I'd get really close to it. Like here's the line. I'd get right up to it. And then something had happened. And I'd go back away and then I'd come back up. And it was like this. And then one day I said, why am I putting the marker here? Why don't I put it out here? And as soon as I put it out there, I remember one day I looked back and said, geez, I remember when I used to say back here, but now I don't even think about that. I'm thinking about, what's that next level? So I think sometimes when you set that cap so close, you got to say, no, I've got to extend myself a little bit forward, and then you plow through what it is that you want. But all that came from my childhood.
Yeah. So powerful, isn't it? That you got that awareness, and it's interesting how we come across those things, right? Like it just happened that you got the job, you're in that area, and you had that chat. If you wouldn't have known necessarily until that time. So it's a question of when you get that awareness, and then and then the key thing is actioning on that, and then like you said, putting your targets higher, or not necessarily comparing yourself to others as well, right? Like everyone's at a different level. Don't just be like, oh, this person's earning double the amount of me, I'm a failure, or anything like that, right? Everyone's at different levels. Know where you are, empower yourself with your beliefs there every day, which is really important, and keep striving to be the better you. And that's really how you get ahead.
How do you think we do get people to develop that stronger self-belief? Because like when you're starting out in business, I mean, I've been in business 12 years now, and I think back to, how much I've grown in that period of time. I think, man, there's no way I'd want to go back to the beginning and go through all that stuff again. You'll just do it differently if you started again. But, it's tough running your own business, and there are so many times of doubt, aren't there, where you think, man, I've got to push through here, I've got to push through. But you don't know what you don't know until you do get the coaching, and to understand that, well, actually, what you're actually doing here is you're just banging your head against the wall. And if you keep banging it, well, two things are going to happen. You either, well, one or two things, you're broken head, broken wall, or whatever, but you're still not going to be in a better position. And I think sometimes we can lose sight of that. How do I just create a better self-belief in who I am? Because when there is doubt, what do? You go right back to that first ever failure, or that whatever, I've never been any good at this anyway, so I may as well just give up. What tips would you give us to help us build that self-belief?
Yeah, like I think the biggest thing is we all have like negative talk, right? Like no one's 100% positive, even though we aim to be, and some are more than others, right? So we all get these negative thoughts that pop into our head. The key thing is really to catch them, right, as they happen. So, have the awareness. So you get that thought. It's just a thought. It's, you don't have to accept that thought, right? And whatever that is, whatever that limiting belief is, or something that comes up, it could be a doubt, whatever it is. And then at the time, catch it and go, no, be aware. I don't want to believe that, right? That's not what I want to, I choose not to believe that going forward. And then flip that belief, right, into something that's empowering to you, the opposite of that, approximately, depending on what that is, So, as an example, instead of money is the root of all evil, is lack of money is the root of all evil, right? Because without money, you don't have choice, you don't have freedom, and all these other things, right? So that's just a quick example for you in the example I said earlier. And you get a lot of these, and write them down, right? So like for me, because like it can happen at any time, right? You could be walking down the street, you could be at home, you could be working. I like to have a note in my phone that makes it easy for me on it, just an app there, a note that's all backed up, and I'll flip it. So when I flip it, I'll put the new empowering belief in that, right? And you can call it affirmations, incantations. There's a lot of different words that you can use to call that note. And then you really need to, in your morning routine, right? Our morning routines are really important as well in the morning to start our day well. And as part of that, I definitely recommend going through those and saying them, with a lot of, energy and emotion, everything like that. And that's just the daily thing. But at the time when you get that belief and you flip it, also say it at least 3 times, and especially out loud if you can, unless you're in a public place, you don't want to seem like you're crazy or anything like that. But even saying it in your head, because the more times you say it, you start to re-script yourself. And then eventually, and the key thing as well with that is make sure it's in the present. So in other words, don't say, I'm going to do this, because then you're always going to do this, right? Whatever that this is. Say,
I am this.
I am this. Yeah. Exactly. And then what happens is the universe and everything, the body accepts it once you tell it to yourself enough. And that's what you do, right? And that's how you employ it. So that's something that we can do ourselves. And as we catch them over time, and the more you catch them, I rarely have negative thoughts now, because I've programmed myself to think positive and I've re-scripted myself.
Yeah. Great points. So tell me, you mentioned there a really powerful point, which I do this every day as well. But it was many decades probably before I realized that I needed to change this. You mentioned about your morning routine. Maybe by way of illustration, could you tell us how you start your day to set yourself up for success?
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of successful people get up early in the morning, right? That's like a big trait when you think of a lot of successful people. So I was never a morning person, but I had to become one after. So I realized that was the key to success. So, it's getting up relatively early. I get up, a lot of days on, 4:35 a.m., depending on what happens, like that, unless, I have to do something else at nighttime. But basically keeping consistency with your morning routine. And if you're getting up at 7, 8 o'clock, don't try and get up at 4 a.m. the next day, because it's not going to work. Work your way backwards, to something. And then, I guess, doing some exercise in the morning, and you're all about this, Rob, with what you do, I think is an important way to start the day. And it also helps to, if you don't have as much sleep, you don't get the 7, 8 hours sleep that, we should be getting, it helps to give you the energy to get your body going. And it can just be initially stretches. If you're not being much in the gym, you can do some easy workouts, or then, get a trainer like Rob, if you're obviously wanting to go to that next level with your fitness and things like that. So depending on where you're at is to do that. And then, do my incantations, do some mind feeding. So, feed my mind with stuff that's going to benefit me. So whether that's courses, whether it's podcasts, whether it's something else, right, that I'm going to learn from in that morning routine. Depending on, what the day is as well, I prep myself a lot. So I'll do a bit of strategic thinking sometimes, things that I'm going to learn from as well. It could be reading a book. I leave it a little bit open sometimes as well, depending on what happens in that area there. But I think having a few key pillars in your morning routine and saying, like I said before, those incantations, affirmations to yourself, and a lot of gratitude as well, I think is really important in the morning, is being grateful for, where you've come from. It can be small things, it can be big things in your life. And because the more grateful we are, the more things we attract, success and everything like that as well. So that's a few things that I do. And if you can structure your morning like that, so if you get up at 5, you can get all your things done by 6, maybe 7 a.m. And then you can start your day earlier. You could even do things from 7 to 8. Maybe, you could even be doing a course or something that you're learning, right? You can do it from that time as well in the morning before people start work. So you get a lot of stuff done, so that when you actually start the day of work, you've pretty much got all your main things that you wanted to do that day. So that way, once you finish for the day, you don't have to think about, I've got to do all these things that I really want to do that may not get done.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. But you covered so much in such a small space there. I wanted to, you talk a lot faster than I do. I'm from the country, you see, so I can slow everything down for everyone. I absolutely agree. The morning routine is just so fundamental. And I think for, if anyone's listening to this for the first time and thinking, oh, what are you talking about? You've made so many good points. So I'd say go back, replay the points. I wanted to talk about a couple of them. I personally found that, let's say, starting the day early, for instance, as the first point. We both get coaching from JT, and I think if you want to be really, really successful, whether you attach that as being $1 million, $2 million, 5, 10, 20, 100, a billion, whatever you come up with your definition of success. If you want to be that successful person, chances are you need to change what it is that you're doing right now, and you need to sleep less and do more. And that was probably a big realization for me, where I was getting up at around maybe 6:30, something like that, thinking, man, I'm tired at that time. But then if you know that the average millionaire and billionaire gets up between 4 and 5 a.m., it's like, oh, okay, well, you could think on the other side, oh, if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, you'd be sleeping until 10, 11, whatever. No, there's a reason they're that way. It's because of their thinking and what they can do. And so why do you get up that early? Just like you said, you can get so much more done. Now, like you and I, we deal with people all around the world, so it never stops because of the different time zones. But in your own locality, you're not going to get those phone calls and that kind of stuff. You go through the process. You don't open your email, and you set yourself up for success doing your things. And that's how I got my first book written, because I thought, I'm never going to do this if I don't get up earlier and work on it then, and did that every day. And then that was part of the step. The other part that you said was about incantations. Now, this can seem really weird to people, really freaky. I wonder if you wouldn't mind just maybe giving us a couple of examples of what you do in the morning, and maybe just again explaining why that's so important to you.
Yeah. So you're talking about in terms of the incantations and things like that? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So as I said, I've accumulated them on my mobile, right, over time. And, you know, a lot of the time with incantations as well, you want to put some movement and some emotion into it where possible. So even if you're at home, right, it could be simply as, you know, walking around and saying them, right, with some emotion, right? Now, other people, you might even get more out of it if you go for a walk, right? Or do it, or a bit of a jog or something like that as well. But I just do it in my apartment. You don't have to go too crazy with it as well. And really, you know, focus on the key ones. You know, you're going to build them up over time, right? So sometimes you get some really, you can have a potential long list at some point, so you can do all of them. Or
so what would be one that you would say? And I'm happy to share one that I do.
What's one that I would say? I've got so many out there. I'm just trying to remember which one I would do. But it could be like, you know, I got like a mental blank right now.
Well, I'll tell you one I do and see if that jogs your memory. So there was obviously what I do. I need to be energetic with people and stuff, and I feel really energetic. But there was probably about 8-9 years ago now. So like 4 years into my business, and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm exuding energy. You know, I feel like I'm like, okay, let's go. Come on, let's do it. But if I was one-on-one with somebody, I would be quite animated. And so I used to think, I want to be more passionate. I want people to see that I'm energized and I'm passionate. And the one that I used to use a couple of variations on this, and I'd do it while I was walking around, as you said about the movement. And I'd be walking through my streets around here, and I would say one was, all the passion I need is within me now. And that's, like a really powerful one. And I would say it over and over for like 10 minutes. I would just listen to music and I would say it. And then every now and then I'd walk past somebody and realize that I've said it and they think that I'm an idiot, but I wouldn't worry about it. I just keep on walking. But that would be one that I would do. Now, I don't do them so much now because I found that I did it for so long. I conditioned myself that all of a sudden I found I was just being more uplifted. It's like putting yourself into that state of, being, okay, I'm ready to do whatever. You know, like I go through a little process before preparing for interviews and stuff. Otherwise, you just show up and you're down in the chair and your body language is like this, and it's like, oh yeah, you got anything else for me, Athin? You know, you've got to be really, really switched on because it comes from a good place. You know, it comes from in here. You want to make a difference to people. So,
yeah.
Did that jog your memory?
It did. That was amazing. So great to hear what you do as well, Rob. It isn't just about me on this show. I'm sure you can provide. You are providing a lot of awesome value as well. So I guess what I do is also one of them is the empowering side of things, like you said with them. Another way to look at it is what are like my potential weaknesses that I want to change, right? Yeah. So for example, I was a bit challenged with time management, right? So one of my incantations was, I'm excellent at managing my time, right? Yeah. And I would say that to myself a lot, so that my belief in everything that I do is one of that. So that's one of them. Even around money, even a simple one like money is energy. It's a transference of energy, right? So that's another one as an example. And I think that last point you said, which was a great one, like I mentioned, in what I say as well, it's about pre-framing situations, right? So before you do something, you've just got to, basically, reset yourself and, tell yourself what's going to happen basically. And, so you're in that frame of mind ready to go for whatever that is, before an interview, before a meeting, before a show, before whatever you do like that is really important, definitely.
I think, up until 8 years ago, I had never heard of the concept of doing incantations or affirmations or whatever. And incantations probably more powerful. And I believe in them so much because of how it helped impact me. And if you're listening to this for the first time, say, oh, well, how's that going to help? That's just stupid. That's just, that's not going to work for me. Well, unless you do it with full energy and full commitment, you're not going to know. But what I found I was doing was it blocked out, because I'd done it so many times. And like I did it 8-9 years ago, and I can still remember the energy and the emotion that I'd put into it. And after all, I didn't care if anyone heard it. But the words that we say to ourselves silently, like even as I'm talking right now, you're thinking some other things as well, like, all these little chatter words just appearing and whatever. And people listening to this are doing the same thing. I heard something that it's something like we think something like 12 to 1,300 words a minute, but we can only write or type about 40, 50 words a minute. So that process of writing things down, like you said before, is just so, so important. But how often do you say to yourself, oh, you idiot? A lot of my weight loss clients that I work with, they call themselves, fat, ugly, SOBs because of, what they are. And just that really demeaning talk that we have to ourselves. Well, what's the incantation? It's exactly the opposite of that. And it's like, why can't I ever earn money? Why can't I earn money? Why am I always broke? Why am I doing this? And I'm so frustrated that I'm so broke. And, because you put so much energy into the negative, if you turn that around, your mindset becomes just in a completely different place, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, Rob. So great points there. And whatever we focus on, comes to us. So we're conditioned as a negative society, unfortunately, with media and everything like that. So once we have that awareness and we start to rescript ourselves, it's amazing what we attract into our life, on all of those things. So I tell everyone, do it and be consistent as well, right? Don't just do it once and say, oh, it didn't work or anything like that. Do it every day. Eventually you get to the point like Rob and I, where it'll just become natural. You don't have to say them all, but you do it every day and I guarantee that you'll see massive differences in your life.
Yeah, really well said. It's completely changed my life and who I am, right now. It's because of that morning routine and just doing it consistently. It might sound boring, but you just keep doing it and you get better and better at it and you get more done.
Yeah, definitely.
Wanted to ask you a question. All my guests, because of my passion for health and fitness and everything, I wanted to ask you, what's your typical day of food and exercise look like?
Interesting. I aim to work out in the mornings. So I'll do certain exercises. I move to a in place exercise because of not being, gyms being closing and stuff like that during COVID. So I'll do different exercises and things like that through a program in the morning and that. I actually, there's a lot of different ways of doing things. And so, go see what works for everybody. What I say is not necessarily going to be what Rob does or what anybody else does. So I would say is do your research, speak to people that, and do what feels right for your body because everyone's different. For me, I do a little bit of intermittent fasting in the morning. So I take just a bit of a super green powder and things like that. So that sort of gives me some nutrients in the morning. And then in terms of food and that, I'll normally have a salad, a nice healthy salad, relatively healthy. Like I'm not vegan, but I eat a lot of plant-based foods. It's hard to, I call myself a flexitarian because I'm a bit flexible in what I say. Like I have a bit of fish stuff, I'll have a bit of meat here and there, but I try and eat quite plant-based. So nice, healthy, vibrant, non-cooked lunch. And then You know, for dinner, there may be like a cooked meal of some sort, depending on what it is for the day. In between that as well, I'll likely have, you know, some sort of healthier snacks. They could be berries and things like that, or a banana or something. I like to have nuts as well, as a good, you know, protein source. Helps fill me up as well if I feel I'm hungry, in between things like that as well. And obviously in the morning, I take a few vitamins and things as, you know, for things to help me,
Yeah,
as my
nice.
morning routine as well. So that's, yeah, it's basically what I do. And, you know,
Nice
and I think just the one thing I'll add is that, you know, you got to spoil yourself a little bit here and there. So on the weekend or something like that, I'll eat something a little bit more extravagant just here and there, just because, you know, it's not too regimented,
Yeah.
7 days a week. Yeah.
So I'm always interested in studying success and successful people. So tell me, what's your mindset around living that lifestyle? Why do you do it that way?
Yeah, like I know that being healthy provides energy, right? So that really is going to give me the energy to, you know, do everything I need to do in business, be successful and everything like that. Because if we're eating bad foods, we're likely not going to be able to perform at the level we need to perform to be able to be successful and have the life that we want. And I don't want to go down the path of getting sick and everything like that with whatever else, right? And that's going to hurt me and create cost and all these other things. So by me eating these healthy foods, I know that raw foods, right, in terms of the good salary stuff that I eat, is going to give me a lot of energy, right? Because when we cook a lot of things, they lose the nutrients, right? Some things don't, but a lot of things do. So there's that aspect. And then, you know, eating, you know, healthier, clean things, I just feel better, right? Like I feel I have more energy, you know, and it's interesting. Like, it's not like I woke up one day and I was healthy, right? Like I used a lot of bad foods when I was younger, and you sort of get to the point where you start to become curious. And then as you start to like get a bit healthier with certain things in your life, you'll feel the difference. And then you build on that. And then you get to a point now, like where I am and probably where you are and your clients are, where you've got this regimen of routine and you just feel amazing. And if you have the odd meal that's bad, you probably feel the energy loss, right? Because of, you know, depending on what it is. But that's okay. That's just a reminder that when you do eat the way you do, then you can really achieve and do everything you need to do for that day.
I think energy is such a great word. And when I first started training clients, naively, I thought, okay, it's about getting them to lose weight. You know, it's about getting a certain look for them. But it didn't take me that long to realize that, you know what, that's part of the way. But I'm very big on, you know, like a lifestyle plan. So I don't, like, if somebody looks good, but they're terrible on the inside, then that's useless. So I go from here first, because if this isn't right, the rest won't be any good. But making sure that they've got an optimized level of health on the inside as well. And then, yeah, that gives you more energy. And what can you do with more energy? Anything you want, and you'll do it better. So yeah, I love that word. Final question for you. Well, actually, I got a follow-up question here, but we can get in touch with you. But the final question for you, somebody is listening to this right now, and I don't know, they may be at the start of their entrepreneurial journey. They may be just stuck. And they feel like I was saying before, I cannot get beyond this point. I get close to it, but I then back away. And I really want to get to way beyond here, but I can't get past here. What would your advice be to that person or people?
Yeah, like the biggest thing I'll say is get a coach and mentor that you resonate with, right? Like, you don't know what you don't know, and the coach and mentor is going to be able to uncover whether it's the limiting beliefs that are holding you back or where it is that you want to go in your business, right? Because business is challenging. There's ups and downs, and most businesses fail. That's the stats, right? So go to somebody that's already further down the path than you, of the path that you want to go down, and learn from them. Success leaves clues, right? So, you know, understand, they'll give you the process, invest the money, it'll come back to you probably tenfold, right? In your business, in your life and everything like that, with the changes that you make. So that's the biggest thing I would say. And the other thing I would say is as well is really be aware of what your weaknesses are. And this is where the coach obviously can help you with those weaknesses, but also work on them, right? Like I mentioned, time management was one before. So I had to work on that because I know that that was holding me back. So understand what your weaknesses are in business. Is it the numbers, right? Spend more time on the numbers. If you're more of a creative person, you don't like the numbers, spend more time because you need to understand numbers in business. You don't need to be a whiz, right, at numbers, but you need to understand the numbers. So work out those different areas, get the coach and really, take yourself to that next level.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I know that I'm sure you have as well. It's only by working with coaches you get to that next level. And I guess I would just add, if you're, again, sitting there thinking, why would I need a coach? I'm doing just fine. Then I say, look at the highest performing sports team around, sports teams, and sports individuals around the world. Every single one of them has at least one or multiple coaches. So yeah, well said. So Athin, this has been fantastic. Have to get you back on the show. Great conversation. Tell everybody how, if they want to get in touch with you and do some things with you, have you as their coach and consultant, how can people get in touch?
Yeah. The best method, is I'll come on the biggest platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Athin Cassiotis. The biggest one is probably go to my website, athincassiotis.com. It's got everything about me on there, on what I'm all about, how I can help you with all the different areas. And looking forward, if you feel it would be a good fit, let's have a chat and see if we can help each other to grow.
Sounds fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. You have a great day and we will talk again soon.
Thanks, Rob.